This video is going to be looking at word problems that involve perimeter and area of rectangles and the Pythagorean triples. Basically, we're going to be looking at word problems where you have two unknowns and you have to solve for both of those. And the secret to those is to eliminate one of the variables by using rewriting it in terms of the other. So let's look at this particular one. It says the perimeter of a rectangular floor is 48 feet. And the length is 5 times the width. And so what are the individual widths and lengths? All right, so first of all, a perimeter is, think of the floor boundary here as a fence, and what would the length of the fence be? And we have length and then we have width. So the perimeter will just be adding all of these up together. So there's my formula for perimeter. Now, this sentence tells us, so we're meant to find width and length. So we have two things to find, but this sentence tells us that we can write one of them in terms of the other. So the length is equal to 5 times the width. Okay, so the perimeter is 48, and 48 is equal to that. But we have that the length is 5 times the width. So I'm going to replace L with 5W. So I have 48 equals 2W plus 10W, so 48 equals 12W. Then divide both sides by 12. And so the width is going to be 4 feet. And then what is the length? Well, we were told that the length was 5 times the width. So the length is 20 feet. Okay. That's if we have perimeter. Okay, this is another possibility that you could get. This time you're told that the area of a rectangular floor is 180 feet. Okay, so in that case, and the length is 31 units more than the width. Okay, so in that case, area of a rectangle is length times width. Now we're told that the length is 31 units more than the width. So the length is going to be the width plus 31. Okay, so we can now put in 180 is equal to LW, but 180 is now, instead of L, I have W plus 31. And so I'm going to get W squared plus 31W. Now I have a quadratic. I can solve a quadratic if it's equal to 0. So I'm going to subtract 180 from both sides. Now you can use quadratic formula to solve this with A1, B 31, and C equals negative 80. Or you can try and factor it. Two numbers that multiply together give you negative 180, but add up together to give you 31. 180, I know that's 18 times 10. And 10 is 5 times 2. And 18 is 6 times 3. Okay, so 180 is divisible by 5. All right, so 36 times 5 is 180. I think I found the two numbers that work by factoring it. If it takes you too long to factor, then you can always use quadratic formula to get the solutions to this. But I want two numbers that add up together to give me 31, but multiply. Their product is negative 180. So I want positive 36 and negative 5. That should do it, because 36 times negative 5 is negative 180, and 36 plus negative 5 is 31. Now the solutions to this is W equals negative 36, or W is equal to 5. Okay, now I have to reject this one because we're talking about the width of a floor, and a floor cannot have negative width. So this is the one that I go with. So my width is going to be 5. And what is the length? Well, the length is 31 units more, so the length is going to be 5 plus 31, which is 36 feet. Okay. All right. Now, what about this? Find two numbers whose sum is 20 and whose difference is 2. Well, there's two ways we can do that. We haven't been told anything about the numbers. Let's just call them X and Y. Okay, their sum is going to be 20. And their difference is 2. Now, I'm just going to make the assumption, well, first of all, they're not the same. If they were the same, their difference would be 0. So one of them is bigger. So I'm going to make the assumption that X is bigger. And so I will get 2. And Y minus X would give me negative 2. Okay. Now, there's two ways I can do this. One is called elimination. And elimination, if I look at these formulas and I just add them as they are, because they're stacked nicely here, and do it like vertical addition. So X plus X is 2X, and Y plus negative Y, well, they are eliminated. Equals equals equals, and 20 plus 2 is 22. And so I have a new formula. 2X is equal to 22. And I divide both sides by 2, and X is equal to 11. And their sum is 20, so Y is going to be X plus Y equals 20. So 11 plus Y is equal to 20, so Y is equal to 20 minus 11, and so Y is equal to 9. And that does work. We add these up and we get 20, and then X minus Y is 2. Now, another way I could have done that is using something called substitution. And so you rewrite one of these, and it doesn't matter which one, to where you get a letter by itself. So I could rewrite X as 20 minus Y. So I get the X by itself. And then I substitute it into this formula. So that formula will now become, instead of X, I'll have 20 minus Y, and then minus Y equals 2. So I've used this. I've plugged 20 minus Y in for X into this formula, and now I only have to solve for one variable. So I have 20 minus 2Y equals 2. I can subtract 20 from both sides. So I get that. And then divide both sides by negative 2, and I get Y is equal to positive 9. And then come back to this formula, and X is equal to 20 minus 9, X is equal to 11. So that was another way I could do it. So either substitution or elimination. If you're going to use elimination, make sure your two equations are stacked, where you have your variables on top of each other, the equal sign, and then the numbers. Okay. All right. Now, with the Pythagorean theorem, this only applies to right triangles. Now, in pictures, if you have a right triangle, it means that one of the angles is a right angle, or 90 degrees. Most of the time they'll be drawn with this little box, but sometimes the picture will just be shown and you'll see the angle is 90. Okay. Now, when you have a right triangle, how do you know which side is the hypotenuse? The hypotenuse is always the side that is opposite the right angle. So here The hypotenuse is this side. And then the other two sides, we just call them leg 1 and leg 2. And it really doesn't matter. As long as you get the hypotenuse correct, it doesn't matter where you label those. Okay. All right, now when you have that labeled correctly, the Pythagorean theorem says that the hypotenuse squared is equal to the individual sum of squares of the two legs. Okay, so if we have something like this, and you're asked to find the missing side, well, we can see that the missing side is the hypotenuse. So they might have it like this and say find x. Well, it's up to us to see that x is the hypotenuse. So the hypotenuse squared is, and we can call this one leg 1 and that one leg 2. It doesn't matter the order. Okay, so let me get my calculator out. Okay, so let's do, clear that out, 20 squared plus 21 squared. Okay. All right, now we got to be really careful here because some students will do that and say, oh, okay, well, x is equal to 841. No, it's not. Next thing you have to do is take square roots of both sides. And so if I take square roots of both sides, I get x is equal to plus or minus the square root of 841. But we're talking about sides of a triangle, and it doesn't make any sense for a triangle to have negative length. So we can take the positive one and just the positive one. So I'm going to ask it for the square root of my latest answer, which is 841, and I get 29. And so the hypotenuse is 29. Okay. Now, if we were asked for the area of any triangle is base times height, but the area of a right triangle, the area of any triangle is 1/2 base times height. The area of a right triangle is going to be 1/2 times each of the legs. So not the hypotenuse, each of the legs. Okay, so this would be 1/2 times 20 times 21. So 0.5 times 20 times 21. Okay, so the area of this particular triangle is 210. Now, if we're asked for the perimeter, well, the perimeter of a triangle is the sum of all three sides. And so the hypotenuse plus leg 1 plus leg 2. Okay. So if we were asked for the perimeter of the triangle that we just found, it's going to be 20 plus 21 plus 29. Okay, and so that should be 90. 20 plus 21 plus 29. Okay. Oh, 70, my bad. So 2, 4, 6, and then 10, 70. Okay. All right, so if this is in centimeters, and area will be in square centimeters. Okay. All right. So let's go on to something else. What if we are told what if you were told this? Okay, and all we're told about the other two legs is that one leg is 1 unit or 1 centimeter shorter than the other leg. Okay. And we're told basically the same thing, like find these two legs and find perimeter and area and whatnot. Okay, well, I need to assign X to one of them. Okay, so let's let X be the shorter leg. Okay, and so we have a short leg and we have a long leg, or leg 1 and leg 2. And we have the hypotenuse. This is the hypotenuse. Okay. So if X is the shorter leg, then the longer leg has length X plus 1. So one leg is 1 centimeter shorter than the other leg. And if we let X be the shorter leg, then the longer leg is going to be the measurement of the shorter leg plus 1. Okay, so I can do this now. And I only have one unknown, which is X. Okay. Now, this is my hypotenuse, so by the Pythagorean theorem, the hypotenuse squared is equal to the first leg squared plus the second leg squared. Okay. So now that's going to be X plus 1 times X plus 1. And I'm going to have to expand that. So it's going to be X squared plus 2X plus 1. And so I'm going to have 2X squared plus 2X plus 1, and then minus 29 squared. Okay, let's see what that is. Let me just move this a little bit. So 1 minus 29 squared is going to give me negative 840. Now, before you get into the quadratic formula, notice that every single term there is even. And as long as I do the same thing to every term, then I'm still okay. And 840 divided by 2, that last term is going to be negative 420. Okay, now you can try and factor that, or you can use quadratic formula. 420, that's going to be 42 times 10, but it's also divisible by 20. 20 times 2 is 40. Okay, so 420 is equal to 20 times 21. So if I'm going to factor this now, and again, you can use the quadratic formula, but if I'm going to factor this, oh, there go my dogs. I think somebody's just driven up in the driveway, but I'll try and finish this. If I'm going to factor this, I need to find two numbers that multiply together to give me negative 420, but they add up to give me positive 1. So I'm going to need positive 21 and negative 20. And now I can see from factoring it that the answers would be X is negative 21. What are the zeros? Or X is 20. Okay, now we can't have this because you cannot have a side having a negative length. So that's extraneous. So my shorter side is 20. And my longer side is one more, which is going to be 21. Okay, so I get that same triangle that I had in the previous problem. It's just this one was posed if they gave you the hypotenuse first and then were cryptic about these other two lengths. And so I would get the same area and I'd get the same perimeter. Okay. All right, let's see, what else could we be asked? Okay, now what if you have an isosceles triangle? Isosceles means that two of the sides of your triangle are equal. An equilateral triangle has all three sides, but an isosceles side has two sides that are equal. Now, if your isosceles triangle is also a right triangle, then the two sides that are equal have to be leg 1 and leg 2, because the hypotenuse is always the longer side. You never have a side equal to the hypotenuse. Okay. So if you have a isosceles, if you're told you have an isosceles right triangle, then your two legs that are not the hypotenuse are equal to each other. Okay. So what if all we're told is that an isosceles right triangle has a hypotenuse of 6.3 centimeters? Then what is all of this? And you might think, well, I don't have enough information to do that, but you actually do. Well, first of all, let's draw it. Okay, so we haven't been given a drawing here, so I'm going to just draw it. You can draw it any way you want. I like to draw them like this. Okay. So there's my right angle, and the hypotenuse, which is opposite the right angle, is 6.3. So there's our hypotenuse. Now these two legs are equal because it's isosceles. So if that has length x, then because they're equal, so does that. Okay, so I need to find out what x is. Well, this is a right triangle, and so using the Pythagorean theorem, the hypotenuse squared is equal to the first leg squared plus the second leg squared. Okay, and I actually don't have to write that out just yet. X squared plus x squared is 2x squared. Now I need to solve this for x. So I'm going to divide both sides by 2. And now to get x, I need to take square roots of both sides. And taking square roots will give you a positive and a negative possibility, but x is the length of the side of a triangle, so it cannot be negative. So I'm going to take x to be the positive square root of this. Okay, so this is what I put in my calculator, and that will give me x. And how far do we take it? You need to take it with web work, I would say at least 4 or 5 places, at least. Okay, so let's see. The square root of 6.3 squared divided by 2. And then close out the parentheses for square root. Okay, so x is... All right, so I might take it that far. Okay, and yeah, at least that far if you're in my math lab or WebWorks. Okay, you don't want to introduce rounding error. Okay, so that's what I put in for leg 1 and leg 2. Okay, now perimeter, well, perimeter is just the 3 sides added up together. So the hypotenuse plus leg 1 plus leg 2. Okay, and that's what I'm going to do. I might do times 2 instead of adding it again, and then plus 6.3. Okay, so thereabouts. If your answer was not accepted, then you might have to go back here and take it even more decimal places, but surely to goodness, taking it to 5 places should be enough. Okay, so perimeter is easy enough. Now area is 1/2 times leg 1 times leg 2. But leg 1 and leg 2 are the same, so it's the same as that. Okay. Or you can just type in that times that. But so I'm going to have 1/2 times 4.45477 squared. Okay, and so the area would be 9.922487876 centimeter square. So areas in square units and perimeters just in the regular units. All right, and so that covers most anything you could be asked about in these word problems that the department's looking for to ask you on the final. So I'm going to stop the video there.